Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPaWrites here again, and we got a brand new developer insights article from Bungie on the Season 22 weapons preview. And this is going to be very interesting and shake up Destiny 2 quite a bit next season. So, first off, they talk about weapon balancing. I'll look back at the mid season balance patch. They don't do this often, but I do appreciate all these charts that they're showing us because it does give us an idea on what weapons are not only most used, but also how well those most used weapons are performing to see if the meta is actually as strong as some people say it is or believe it might be. So we've got hand cannons and pulse rifles highest on the usage charts, which is interesting. Everyone's complaining about SMGs, but I think it's just because the Immortal is such an outlier, even though hand cannons and pulse rifles seem to be in a very good spot. And the kills over usage, so you're actually going to get kills more often, more kills per the usage for the hand cannons than you are with pulse rifles. Down here we got auto rifles. Look at how good fusion rifles are, but they're so much less used overall. We got scouts, we got bows, grenade launchers, and then sidearms. So a lot of people seem to use the grenade launchers and just get less kills, even though they use them more than you might think. So I find that to be very, very fascinating. Then we go on down top 50. This is among high skill, by the way. So high skill for the top 50 primaries. Adept Immortal is way overused and overperforming, so obviously that's going to get hit again. Then we've got down here the Immortal, which gets way less kills than expected despite really high usage. Same thing with Le Monarch, but Le Monarch is more of a quick swap weapon, so that's understandable. And then you got here Graviton Lance, Messenger, no time to explain. These are pulse rifles, which definitely need to be tuned down, hopefully to around this range to compete with like Ace of Spades, Rhodes, and all that, Crimson, and all that kind of good stuff. So I find that to be very interesting. Spare Rations is actually doing very well for the usage. I want to be surprised to see that have an uptick going forward. So especially among high skill players, which remember that's what these charts are showing. So they talk about how people stopped using No Time and Messenger Adept as they got closer to the patch once it was announced because people were getting ready for the nerfs. And yeah, hand cannons are just way up here in the usage, all the way up around 32% compared to pulse rifles and SMGs, which are much, much lower. And then auto rifles, sidearms, all that kind of stuff, even less so. So if the just purely based on usage, hand cannons must be in a pretty good spot, especially among high skill players. Then we go to the primary weapons. Again, Immortal needs another nerf, obviously, even though the base Immortal is not that great. If you look at the kills for the usage, it's just not as good. It doesn't compete well with a lot of these other weapons, and I think people are just using it because it is the meta and everyone believes it's very good, not necessarily that it's as good as people think. Contrast that with the Vex Mythoclast, which isn't used as much, but the kills over expected is way higher than you might have anticipated. So I think that's very, very interesting. Immortal, with the zoom changes, is probably going to be bumped down quite a bit. Rose and Ace of Spades has surpassed No Time to Explain on the Messenger, and while Graviton Lance remains elevated in usage, the near even effectiveness indicates that it's no longer a balance concern, which is, again, interesting. I think there's certain weapons that are going to be more annoying than just overpowered, and that's something that I don't think people necessarily understand because when you get killed by the excess explosions from the Graviton Lance or something like the Lightning Strike from Cloud Strike, it is more annoying than anything because you got killed just from being in proximity to somebody else, not necessarily getting outgunned yourself. So I think that's why people get frustrated at those types of weapons. All primary skill weapons, skill levels, that's going to be everybody in the game. Hand cannons are still the most used, but it's a lot more even. And then you have auto rifles, pulse rifles, SMGs. So yeah, the balance is a lot better here among all primary weapon types for your all skill types of players, which is I think very interesting. Although fusion rifles up here, that's gonna be the Vex Mythoclast, which is kind of insane. So, and then grenade launchers. This is for primary grenade launchers only. So keep that in mind when we're looking at those numbers. And then we go on down here. Centrifuge. That's going to probably get a nerf at some point. Although a lot of this, I think, has to do with the artifact mods that we have this season. So that might not be as good next season if we don't have any arc ones. Quicksilver Storm is very, very good. The Immortal with the nerf changes might drop down a little bit. Graviton Lance. We got Ace of Spades up here. As long as these are relatively even, it's not too much of a problem. Again, the Immortal and Rainy Stoning Knife, a lot of people are using them, but not getting the kills that you might expect. And again, Vex Mythic class Suros is very, very good. So this kind of tells you which weapons are probably going to be meta in the future, unless they get some balance changes going forward. So we'll see. But I like all the information. I love having those numbers to look at because it does paint a clearer picture than them just saying, okay, this is what most people are using. I do like that quite a bit. Balance changes, global PvE kills with 2 special, now generate heavy. So these are some of the changes that they've already announced. Reticle changes, zoom and damage fall off. This should affect SMG specifically, like the Adept Immortals, so that'll be interesting as well. As of Season 22, we've removed the benefit from that list, so zoom stat will no longer scale damage fall off distance. So I think that's good. I think that'll be very interesting. It'll really be interesting to see how all of that actually feels in the game. So they kind of go into the full details here with all of the different weapon types, and that is very, very fascinating. So jumping on down, ADS damage fall off start distance in meters. So if you're a fan of stats and actual numbers to get hands on, this is going to be for you. But I'm going to keep it rolling. So yeah, they talk about all of it with these special weapons as well. And then, I think overall they have some custom tuned exotic ranges like Ace, Devil's Ruin, Revision Zero, Last Word, all that kind of stuff. Crimson, which is going to be interesting because I think Crimson is a pretty solid weapon as well. Same thing with Vex Mythic class. So anyway, weapon archetype changes. We got some increased reload speed, at 0 stat by 15%, PvE damage 20% against minors, 75% against majors, and then heavy burst, which is Warden's Law, and others that are probably going to come in the future as well, is the 2-round burst, which will be cool. I'm looking forward to that. It'll be like almost like a mini Crimson at times. Bows reduce the minimum reload animation duration from 0.5 to 0.3 seconds, and then increase the projectile velocity at full draw speed so that projectiles will continue to perform as if they were hit scan at longer distances at higher frame rates. Lightweight bows equalize the full draw projectile velocity with precision bows. SMGs fixed RPM stat display. Sidearms reduce base damage from 32 to 30 for the aggressive archetype. Pulse rifles increase zoom of BXR back to 20. Shotguns fixed the impact stat on the comedian. Fusions fixed an issue where adept masterworks and enhanced intrinsic perks were decreasing the damage dealt by fusions when they were charged. Changed the charge time stat. Waveframe grenade launchers size and damage of self damage at AoE is now reduced. This should make it safer to projectile launch closer to your feet. So this is for heavy weapons. Keep that in mind, not for all of the waveframe grenade launchers in the game. Swords are getting a complete rework. We've got energy now recharges after a short delay when used, but recharges much faster. The delay before recharge and the recharge rate are both governed by the guard charge rate stat. This delay ranges from 2.7 to 1.05 seconds, decreasing with the charge rate stat, and we're massively increased the rate energy returns after the delay to compensate, and they increase even more at higher charge rate. Even after the delay, swords are now return to full energy from empty faster than before this rework. Full power heavy attacks can now use with any non-zero amount of sword energy rather than requiring full sword energy. We've massively increased sword damage resistance, giving it 82.5 and 95% damage reduction depending on guard resistance stat rate. So we might have to change the way we build out swords, which is interesting. This damage resistance value is sharply reduced against other players like glaives. Then it provides 52.5 or 65% damage reduction. Sword guard no longer loses energy when taking damage. As a result of the above, guard efficiency has been removed as a stat. Fascinating. Sword guard duration is now increased across every guard type. Sword guard talent nodes have had their stats squished down. Combined with the above, even though the stats have been reduced, their damage reduction, charge rates, and guard durations are now increased across the board. This allows origin traits and other sword perks more room to increase their stats and allow performance beyond their previous maximum. Again, good. I think that all these changes are going to make swords more viable. Hopefully next season, sword movement speed when blocking has increased. The Lament, especially case, so its charge rate and delay are unaffected, but it still benefits from the increased guards, damage reduction, and duration. I'll be interested to see if Stronghold is viable now, with the Titan Exotic being something that I don't think a lot of people have used because guarding with swords has never really been viable. But we'll have to wait and see. I can't wait to get hands on. I hope swords are good going forward because I'd love to use them far more often. Monte Carlo, this is the adjustment to the Monte Carlo catalyst that is coming next season. Let's see what it has in store first. All right. Ooh, a little glow on the bayonet, and then you can use it to stab now. Okay, that's very, very good. I'm really excited about that, honestly. Yeah, I'm going to be a Monte Carlo main going forward for sure. Quicksilver Storm fixed an issue with ammo loading in Quicksilver slightly too late in the reload animation, so that's cool. Dead Man's Tail fixed the display impact stat, cosmetic only. Two Tail Fox reworked it, and so that now fires 3-shot burst from the catalyst instead of firing 3 rockets in a 2-shot burst. So it's going to go tunk 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 instead of just the 2, which is nice. I hope you enjoy the sound effects I just gave you there. Verglass Curve. Whisper of Fissures Detonation now generate Hail Barrage stacks. Shiver Quiver now activates when slowing enemies, and we increase the slow stacks 40 to 60. So essentially they buffed Verglass Curve. Le Monarch is getting a nerf, reduced draw time, reduced body shot damage, increased critical hit multiplier, and then change the poison dot effect, reduce the poison dot duration from 3 to 1.75, move the 8 damage ticks to 6, but poison deals the same total damage to players. Poison damage increased in PvE by 50%. So essentially they buffed it in PvE and nerfed it in PvE, or buffed it in PvE, nerfed it in PvE. Although some of the changes are going to be universal, so we'll see how they offset each other and whether it's still going to be good in PvE, but less of a burden in PvP. Vex RPM reduced from 390 to 360 to match other high-impact auto rifles because it did receive some of the high-impact auto changes that we got in earlier season. So increased damage against minor combatants and major combatants by 25%. Hopefully it is more viable in PvE because I would love to see it still be used while not being quite as dominant in PvP. Tommy's Matchbook previously updated scorch value. It went from 14 plus 7 to 15 plus 5. This should help with the setup on the front end of the Tommy's Matchbook. Touch of Malice is getting a buff. Increase final round damage in PvE by 20%. Decrease the self damage from the final round by 10 to 7. Final round damage can no longer kill the user, which is nice. Increase the health awarded by Touch of Mercy 30 to 75, which is massive, over double. Set up Touch of Mercy to work like Unrelenting, which I think could be very interesting. Ball of Darkness now appropriately deals arc damage and will blind combatants and stun unstoppable champions. Hopefully Touch of Malice becomes viable so people will actually use it, because I haven't seen it pretty much at all since it launched. Malfeasance fixed an issue with Voidable Weapon Catalyst, wasn't displaying the status buff text. Cloud Strike reduced the lethal kill distance, the lightning strike against players. Another one I talked about earlier where it's more annoying than really insanely strong, but I'm not surprised they have nerfed that. Wicked Implement. The timing window for creeping attrition has been increased by a full second. You can now also activate Tithing Harvest by destroying stasis crystals, and the Wicked Implement Exotic Catalyst now includes the Headstone perk. All good changes in my personal opinion. I have the Catalyst. I'm excited to try this out after the bus because it did feel underwhelming. Bipod reduced the damage penalty from 40 to 25%. Maybe we get a Bipod medal. That would be awesome. Envious Assassin, no longer time limit. After kills within, you must reach to activate the perk or get another kill. The perk will not activate even if the magazine is overflowed. Ooh, interesting. Enhanced Envious Assassin now provides fractionally more ammo per kill instead of a longer window of time after a kill. So all around changes. Envious Assassin was already very good, so it's going to be even better now. Under Over now provides bonus body shot damage against players with Woven Mail. Ooh, and that's an interesting change. Increase the bonus damage against combatant shields. Deals significantly increased damage to enemies who are enhanced by Dark Cabal overshields in addition to enemy shield by Lucent Moths. Okay, so that's one of those instances where I really like the perk change because it's adding situational value. So if you have an activity that has more Lucent Moss and you're going to have to fight off enemies that have that defensive barrier on them, it's going to perform even better, which I like. So it will be a situational pick more if it is as good as it sounds. Under Pressure, reduce the maximum accuracy cone scaler 0.5 to 0.75. Shoot to loot. No longer triggers the reload when shooting a special break that cannot be picked up while having an overflowed weapon equipped. Explosive damage now interacts with Orbs of Power. Okay, so That's kind of a nerf, but really a fix to something that seemed kind of broken in the first place. That'll be interesting to see how that works out. Valiant Charge perk now deactivates after the initial sword swing. Okay, so that was as intended, so it is a fix. Ambush no longer deactivates from healing, fall damage, or being shot by allies. Explosive Light fixed the bug that enhanced version of the perk was granting 2 stacks of the initial org pickup. Yeah, that's a fix. Hopefully, it doesn't affect it too much because I do like Explosive Light. Chill Clip reduced the slow stacks from 60 to 40. Wolfpack rounds no longer trigger this perk. Kind of a bummer. Chill Clip has been very good though, so I'm not surprised. Now we get into weapon crafting. So boosting completion progression. Thank you, baby Jesus. That is absolutely massive. Crucible Trials, Dares of Eternity, Wellspring Gambit, Platinum Scores, completion of Legend, and Master Solo Lost Sectors. Hopefully it's enough of a buff to make it actually viable. I would love to see that. So they're adding the capability for progress that exceeds the current level for rollover. So essentially, if you would complete an activity, it would cap out how much experience you would get for the weapon based off of like if you hit the level up, and it wouldn't give you the additional experience that you would earn. So if you were close to leveling up a weapon and you hit that with the activity completion, it would essentially lose you a lot of experience for the weapon. So I'm glad that's changing. Very nice to hear. They explain why that is. That was hard to change at first, but I'm glad they got that corrected. So crafted and enhanced weapons will both receive new mod slot, and the weapon details where you can spend glimmer and enhancement cores to boost the level of the weapon. Massive. While there's no cap for how you can boost a weapon's level 2, the cost of this boosting will increase relative to the level of the weapon. Weapon usage is meant to be the main path for increase of weapon's level, however, with the restrictions of how many weapons you can level at a time, and the always increasing expansion to the amount of weapons that have a level, we wanted to provide an alternative, which is nice. Crafting economy, so they're getting rid of resonant and harmonic alloys, which is, again, a good thing. Neomuna weapon pattern acquisition. If you don't have all of these, some of them are pretty good, so you might want to chase these now. So you'll get weapon, the Neomuna weekly pinnacle story challenge will provide guaranteed Neomuna weapon pattern progress. The Neomuna vendor engram upgrade will increase the drop chance of deep sight Neomuna weapons. Good. Throne world vendor upgrade will receive the same behavior for the Throne World deep side weapons, and again, this will be retroactive, which is nice. Season 22 will also have bug fix for the underlying deep side drop system that manifested from the major overhaul within Lightfall, so it could decrease the deep side drop rate. So hopefully we get that fixed so we see them dropping far more often. Anyway, this is going to be the end of the article, so yeah, it was a lot. I'm glad we got this. A lot of changes coming season 22. I think season 22 might be in for a big update to Destiny and how much the play changes because of all these adjustments. There's a lot of interesting weapon changes, a lot of crafting changes that are good, a lot of armor and exotic changes for builds and stuff. We're going to have new artifact perks. I hope the season is a banger. Let me know what you guys think of all of this that is being adjusted in the comments down below. My name is JoPa. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more Destiny 2 content from me going forward. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.